Imagine being sent on a mission where the fate of an entire city rests on your actions. This is the story of two angels sent by God to a place where darkness ruled the day and night, a city called Sodom. The sun was setting over Sodom, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, as two strangers approached the city gates. But these were no ordinary men, these were angels, sent from the heavens with a purpose. Their mission: to see if the cries against the city were as terrible as they had reached God's ears. As they entered Sodom, the streets were alive with the sounds of people, laughter, and all manner of indulgence. But the angels walked with purpose, their presence in stark contrast to the chaos around them. They were on a divine mission, and nothing could distract them from it. Now, sitting by the city gate was a man named Lot, the nephew of Abraham. Lot had lived in Sodom for years and had seen the evil that festered in its streets. When he saw the two strangers, something stirred in his heart. He knew he had to protect them, even if he didn't fully understand why. Lot hurried to the angels, his voice filled with urgency. "I'm my lords," and he said, "Please come to my house and stay the night. You can wash your feet and rest, then go on your way in the morning." The angels, knowing what was to come, responded calmly, "To know, we will spend the night in the square." But Lot wouldn't take no for an answer. He knew the dangers that lurked in the night, dangers that these strangers might not be aware of, or so he thought. So he insisted, practically begging them to come with him. Reluctantly, they agreed, and Lot led them to his home, unaware of the storm that was about to break over the city. As night fell, a loud, aggressive banging shook Lot's door. The men of Sodom, driven by their wicked desires, had come for the angels. They demanded Lot send out the strangers so they could abuse them. Imagine the fear Lot must have felt in that moment, knowing what these men were capable of. He tried to reason with them, even offering his daughters in place of the strangers, but the mob would not be swayed. Inside, the angels listened, their expressions calm yet resolute. They had seen humanity at its worst before, and this was no different. But when the crowd outside became too much, the angels acted swiftly. They pulled Lot back into the safety of the house, and with a mere gesture, struck the men outside with blindness. The mob, now lost in confusion and panic, groped helplessly for the door, their violence turned into desperate, fruitless searching. With the immediate threat neutralized, the angels turned to Lot. Their message was urgent and clear. "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters? Get them out of this place, because we are going to destroy the city. The outcry against its people is so great that God has sent us to bring it down." Lot's heart pounded. His mind raced as he tried to gather his family, warning them to flee the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking, refusing to leave. Time was running out. As dawn approached, the angels knew they couldn't delay any longer. They took Lot, his wife, and his two daughters by the hands and led them out of the city. Imagine that, being physically pulled away from your home, everything you've ever known, because the danger was that close, that real. The angels didn't just escort them, they commanded them. "Flee for your lives." Then they said, Don't that back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." Then Lot, in his fear, begged them to let him escape to a small nearby town instead. He thought the mountains were too far, too dangerous. The angels, understanding his fear, granted his request. "Very well," they said, "we will spare that town. But hurry, because we cannot do anything until you reach it." As soon as Lot and his family were safely on their way, the angels prepared to unleash God's judgment. And what a judgment it was! The sky itself seemed to tear open as fire and brimstone rained down upon Sodom and Gomorrah. The cities, with all their wickedness, were consumed in an instant. Nothing but ashes and smoke remained. The angels, their mission complete, watched as the cities burned, knowing they had fulfilled God's will. They had seen humanity's evil, but they had also seen one man and his family saved from the destruction. It was a grim reminder of the power of judgment and the mercy that sometimes comes with it. And as the sun rose over the desolate plains where two great cities once stood, the angels faded from sight, their work done. But the memory of what had happened, the fire and the destruction, would live on forever, a testament to the power of the divine and the consequences of sin. This story is more than just a tale of destruction. It is a reminder of the forces at play beyond our understanding. The angels came not just to destroy but to save, to show that even in the darkest of places, there's a chance for redemption if we choose to heed the warnings and walk the path of righteousness. In this second story, we're taken to a time when the fate of Israel hung on the edge of disaster, and an angel, one of God's most powerful messengers, became the central figure of judgment and mercy. But most importantly, it's a story about an angel with a mission that shook the very foundation of Israel. You see, it all began with a simple act, one that seemed harmless on the surface. King David, the mighty ruler of Israel, was filled with pride. He wanted to count his people, to know the strength of his armies, to see just how powerful his kingdom had become. But what David didn't realize was that this act of counting wasn't just about numbers, it was about trust. And by counting his armies, he was showing that he trusted more in his soldiers than in God. God saw this, and his heart was grieved. So he sent a message to David through the prophet Gad, giving him a choice between three punishments. David chose the one that placed his people in the hands of God rather than men. And that's when the angel came. This wasn't just any angel. This was a messenger of divine judgment, sent directly from the throne of God. Imagine the scene: a being of immense power, unseen by human eyes, but whose presence was felt across the land. The angel moved swiftly, carrying out his orders with precision and purpose. His task? To bring a plague upon Israel, a plague that would serve as both a punishment and a warning. As the angel moved through the land, the effects were immediate and devastating. The people of Israel began to fall ill, their strength sapped, their bodies weakened. The plague spread like wildfire, leaving death and sorrow in its wake. But through it all, the angel remained focused, his mission clear. For 3 days, the angel carried out his task, moving from city to city, town to town, sparing none who crossed his path. His presence was like a shadow, darkening the skies and chilling the air. But then, as the angel approached Jerusalem, something remarkable happened. God, in his great mercy, saw the suffering of his people and was moved to compassion. He called out to the angel, "Enough. Stop your hand," and just like that, the angel paused, hovering over the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, his sword still drawn, but his hand stayed by the command of the Lord. Imagine the tension in that moment: the angel, poised between judgment and mercy, his sword hanging in the balance. The people of Jerusalem, unaware of just how close they came to destruction, continued with their lives, unaware of the divine being that had spared them. But David knew. He saw the angel standing there with his sword drawn, and his heart was filled with both fear and gratitude. He knew that this was a moment of divine intervention, a moment when the unseen forces of heaven had stepped into the realm of men. In the end, it was David's repentance, his willingness to humble himself before God, that brought an end to the plague. The angel, his mission complete, sheathed his sword and departed, leaving behind a land that had been forever changed. So when you think of angels, don't just think of them as messengers or guardians. Remember that they are also instruments of God's will, carrying out his commands with unwavering faithfulness, even when those commands bring judgment. And remember, too, that even in judgment, there is mercy, and in the darkest moments, there is always hope. In this third story, an army of 185,000 men stands against a single city. When a whole nation believes it has won, what happens next? Let me take you to a night that changed everything when the impossible became real. The city of Jerusalem was surrounded. The mighty Assyrian army, led by their fierce and undefeated king, had set up camp. They were sure of their victory, confident that nothing could stop them. They had conquered lands and kingdoms, brought nations to their knees, and now Jerusalem was next. Inside the city walls, fear gripped the hearts of the people. They knew the power of the Assyrians, but what they didn't know was that they weren't alone. As night fell, a calm settled over the Assyrian camp. Fires crackled as soldiers ate their meals and talked of their expected victory. But while they rested, unseen to human eyes, the heavens were preparing for something unimaginable. Angels mighty, fierce, and powerful were being dispatched from the throne of God. They moved swiftly, with purpose, their presence unseen but their power unmatched. They were the army of the Lord, and they had a mission. One angel, in particular, was chosen for the task. This wasn't just any angel, this was a warrior of light, a messenger of judgment. His mere presence could shake the foundations of the earth, and tonight, he would deliver a blow that would be remembered for generations. As the angel descended upon the earth, the air around him shimmered with energy. This wasn't just a visit, this was a divine intervention. The angel moved through the night, his form glowing with a light that pierced through the darkness. But even with all his brilliance, he was silent like a shadow moving through the camp. The Assyrian soldiers slept, unaware that their fate was sealed. The angel's wings, vast and powerful, moved with grace as he passed through the rows of tents. With each step, a wave of divine power radiated out, touching each soldier as they slept. And with that touch, life left them. There was no struggle, no noise, no alarm. Just silence. As the angel moved, one by one, the soldiers of the Assyrian army fell into an eternal sleep. This was not a battle of swords and shields, this was the hand of God at work, a divine judgment passed down through his messenger. The power of a single angel, sent by the Lord, was more than enough to bring down an entire army. By the time the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the angel's work was done. The camp, once bustling with life, was now eerily quiet. Not a single soldier stirred. The Assyrian army, once so confident in their victory, was no more. As the angel returned to the heavens, the people of Jerusalem awoke to a miracle. When they looked out over the walls, what they saw left them speechless. The mighty Assyrian army, the very force that had threatened their lives, was gone. All that remained were lifeless bodies, scattered across the camp like fallen leaves. And so Jerusalem was saved not by the strength of men, but by the power of an angel who, with a single night's work, turned the tide of history. This story is a reminder of the unseen forces at work, of the power of faith, and of the might of the angels who stand ready to carry out the will of the Lord. It is a story that shows us that no matter how great the enemy, when God's angels are sent, nothing can stand against them. Imagine this: a world on the brink of an ancient night, where shadows stretch long and deep across the land of Egypt. It's a night unlike any other, filled with a heavy silence that seems to hold its breath. Beneath the vast, ink-black sky, something extraordinary is about to unfold, a divine plan set in motion by the most powerful of all messengers, the angel of death. In the deepest corner of the palace, where Pharaoh's throne sits cold and unyielding, the air is thick with anticipation. The people of Egypt are asleep, unaware of the danger creeping closer, inch by inch. But high above, in the silent expanse of the heavens, the angel of death is awake and on a mission. This angel isn't like any other you've heard of. With wings that span wide and a presence that commands the very air, this celestial being moves with a purpose that is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The angel of death doesn't glide softly or make noise. No, it's a figure of stark, haunting majesty, a shadow that knows no bounds. As the clock ticks towards midnight, the angel begins its journey. It's not just flying, it's gliding through the night with a precision that's both eerie and impressive. The camera follows this angelic figure, capturing its majestic, yet somber movement as it travels over the land, leaving a trail of chilling anticipation in its wake. Everywhere the angel goes, it's as if the night itself grows colder. The homes of the Egyptians, filled with warmth and life, are suddenly overtaken by an unsettling quiet. The angel's path is deliberate, each step a part of a grand, cosmic design. Its movements are smooth, almost fluid, but there's no mistaking the weight of its mission. Now, let's take a closer look at this celestial messenger. The angel of death isn't just a figure of fear, it's an embodiment of divine justice, sent with a singular purpose. It's not merely passing over, it's selecting, marking, and ensuring that every detail is in place for what's to come. As the angel's presence hovers over the homes of the Egyptians, the tension grows palpable. Families sleep soundly, their dreams unaware of the divine visitor above. The angel's passage is a silent, dark promise of what's to come. The contrast between the quiet serenity inside and the ominous weight of the angel's mission outside is stark. So as the minutes crawl closer to midnight, remember this: in the depths of the darkest night, a divine plan is at work. The angel of death, with its solemn wings and unwavering purpose, is moving through Egypt, leaving a chilling mark on history. Stay with us as this ancient tale unfolds, where every shadow holds a story, and every silence speaks volumes. Inside these homes, families are nestled in their beds, blissfully unaware of the danger looming overhead. But there's something different about the homes of the Israelites. Outside their doors, the angel notices something: a mark, a sign of obedience and faith. The blood of a lamb, painted carefully on the doorposts, a symbol of protection that the angel recognizes. The angel's eyes, sharp and discerning, linger for a moment before moving on. These homes are safe, shielded from the coming judgment. But in the homes of the Egyptians, there is no such mark. The angel's path is methodical, unwavering. It's not driven by anger or malice, but by a deep, sacred duty. Every movement, every pause is filled with the solemn knowledge of what must be done. The angel's wings, vast and powerful, create a slight breeze as it moves, stirring the air just enough to send a shiver through the night. Now, as the hour draws nearer, the angel reaches the heart of Egypt. Pharaoh's palace looms large, a symbol of earthly power. Yet in the face of this divine messenger, it's just another building, another place marked by destiny. The angel pauses, hovering over the palace, its gaze fixed on the royal chambers. Inside, Pharaoh sleeps, unaware that the forces of heaven are at his doorstep. And then the moment arrives, midnight. The angel of death, with the precision of a master craftsman, begins its work. It's not a chaotic scene, rather, it's a calm, deliberate act. The angel moves through the palace, unseen by human eyes but felt by every soul within. The firstborn of Egypt, from the sons of Pharaoh to the sons of the servants, are touched by the angel's hand. There is no cry, no sound, just a sudden, still silence, a life snuffed out in an instant. The angel's mission is swift, merciful in its efficiency. It doesn't linger, for there is no joy in this task. It's a necessary act, one that fulfills a divine command. As the angel completes its work, it begins to rise once more, leaving behind a nation in mourning. But there is no satisfaction, no triumph in the angel's heart, only the knowledge that justice has been served. As it ascends back into the heavens, the angel casts one last look over Egypt. The cries of anguish and sorrow begin to rise, but the angel's work is done. The dawn is approaching, and with it, a new chapter for the people of Israel. And so, the angel of death returns to its place among the stars, its task complete, its presence fading into the night. The land of Egypt is forever changed, and the story of this divine messenger will be told for generations to come, a tale of power, of justice, and of the unyielding will of the Almighty.